At 2 a.m., the family tent burst into flames with a loud whoosh. Tatsuya stood back, laughing, his chrome lighter still raised.
Just a prank. Relax. It's just a harmless little prank.
The flame was catching fast. No time for anger, only action.
Tatsuya, what have you done? Sora, the tent.
It's just a little fire. You are all so dramatic.
Sora didn't waste a second. He grabbed the water jug and doused the flames, his movements precise and unhurried.
Hey, what's the big deal? I was just having fun.
With the tent smoldering, Sora stepped aside and made a brief phone call.
This is Sora, unauthorized ignition at Campsite 7. Sending the coordinates now.
The call lasted less than 10 seconds. When he hung up, the night seemed to hold its breath. 14 hours earlier, the same SUV wound through the mountain pass, carrying 5 people and a storm waiting to break.
Hey Sora, do you ever smile? Or did you leave your personality back in your boring office?
Sora's face remained unreadable, his focus fixed on the winding road, as if he hadn't heard a thing.
Tatsuya, stop it. Sora's been looking forward to this trip for months. Just leave him alone.
Oh, he's just joking around, Saki. No need to be so serious. You know how Tatsuya is.
He's got a point, Sora. You could stand to lighten up a little.
Honestly, I still don't know how you managed to marry Saki. Must have tricked her somehow. She could have done way better.
He had learned long ago not to take Tatsuya's bait. His silence was a shield.
The car fell silent, but the weight of unspoken words pressed against the windows, thick as humidity before a storm. When they finally pulled into the campsite, the tension inside was thicker than the pine-scented air outside. The campsite was a clearing ringed by towering pines, the air dry and warm despite the late afternoon.
Need a hand with the tent, Sora? I saw a tutorial once.
Sora caught the pole Tatsuya dropped before it hit the ground. He didn't even glance up.
Tatsuya, for once, just do something useful instead of making things harder.
He's just having fun, Saki. You were always too serious as a child.
That's my boy. At least he knows how to keep things lively.
As the sun dipped, Sora's eyes scanned the campsite perimeter until they stopped on a red warning sign.
The fire danger is extreme today. No open flames outside the designated fire pit.
You sound like a park ranger. Relax, it's just a campfire. What's the worst that could happen?
Sora's warning evaporated into the evening air, unheard or uncared for. As darkness fell, the family gathered around the crackling fire pit. Sora's gaze remained sharp, calculating.
Every year, over 80% of wildfires here start from human carelessness. A single spark can destroy thousands of acres.
Here we go. The professor is in session. Next, he'll hand out a pop quiz.
This park is under an extreme fire advisory for a reason. Ignoring it isn't bold, it's reckless.
Reckless, huh? Then let's make it a little more fun.
Every professional instinct screamed at him to intervene, but he knew this family, words would only escalate things.
You are being dramatic, Sora. We've camped here since before you were born. Nothing ever happens.
Exactly. A little fire never hurt anyone. Stop worrying so much.
Dad, Sora knows what he's talking about. Can you please just listen, for once?
The fire burned to silent embers as the family drifted toward their tents. Sora stayed behind, watching the coals, a cold dread settling in his chest. It was 2:07 a.m. when Tatsuya crept from his tent, the chrome lighter glinting in the moonlight.
Time to give the boring professor something to really lecture about.
He flicked the lighter and touched the flame to the tent canvas. The fire caught with a hungry crackle.
Wakey, wakey, lovebirds. This is what you call a real campfire.
The acrid scent of burning nylon snapped him awake. His body reacted before his mind.
Sora, the tent's on fire.
Sora was already moving, the water jug in his hands. He doused the flames with swift, controlled motions. The commotion roused Kenji and Akiko. They emerged from their tent, rubbing sleep from their eyes.
What on earth is going on out here?
Sora ignored the chaos. He stepped away from the smoldering tent and raised his phone, his voice low and steady. Tatsuya's laughter cut through the crackle of dying flames, his lighter still spinning in his fingers.
Oh, come on. It was just a prank. You all need to learn how to take a joke.
He didn't mean any harm. You know how boys are. They just like to have a little fun.
Exactly. No real damage done. Let's all calm down and go back to sleep.
No real damage. Our tent is destroyed. Tatsuya could have killed us all.
I've already contacted the park authorities. An inspector is on the way to examine the site.
An inspector? Please. I'll just sweet-talk them. They'll give me a warning, and we'll all laugh about it.
The family stood frozen, the tension coiling tighter with every passing second.
He couldn't tell them what was really coming. Not yet. The truth needed to arrive on its own terms.
The only sound was the whisper of wind through the pines, carrying the distant scent of ash. 20 minutes after Sora's call, twin beams of light cut through the pines. A park ranger jeep rolled into the campsite. Ranger Tanaka stepped out, his olive uniform crisp under the moonlight. He surveyed the scene with practiced calm.
Evening, officer. Little misunderstanding here. Just a friendly campfire that got out of hand. We're all good.
The ranger didn't even glance at him. He walked past Tatsuya as if he were a ghost.
Is this the location you reported, sir?
Yes. Ignition source was a handheld lighter. Fire contained within 90 seconds.
The family exchanged bewildered looks. Why was this ranger treating Sora like an authority?
Hey, I am the one you should be talking to. This boring stiff doesn't know anything.
The ranger's attention never wavered from Sora. Tatsuya's words evaporated into the night. A new weight settled over the campsite. The realization that this was far more than a prank.
Sir, could you detail the time of ignition and the fire's behavior?
Ignition at approximately 2:08 a.m. The flame spread slowly across the canvas, contained to a single tent. No crown involvement.
The family watched in stunned silence. Sora was using terms they'd never heard him utter before.
And the immediate response, actions taken?
Full containment within 90 seconds, using on-site water supplies. No accelerants, no secondary ignition points.
Ranger Tanaka nodded and turned toward Tatsuya, his hand reaching for the handcuffs on his belt.
Wait, what are you doing? It was a joke. We're just camping.
You are being detained for suspected arson during an extreme fire danger advisory. This is a criminal offense.
The metallic click of the handcuffs echoed through the clearing. Tatsuya's smugness crumbled into pale shock. Kenji and Akiko rushed forward, their voices rising in protest. But the ranger's face remained stone.
This is a family matter. Surely you understand. He made a mistake. No need for this.
Just a foolish prank. We'll discipline him ourselves, officer. There's no need for handcuffs.
The ranger held up a glowing red tablet. 3 words pulsed on the screen. Fire. Arson alert.
This park has a high-tech fire detection system. Your son's flame was flagged within 90 seconds. During an extreme fire advisory, every unauthorized ignition is treated as arson. No exceptions, no family discounts.
A detection system? So you saw everything. That's impossible. I was careful.
He let the silence speak. The system's data was more convincing than any argument.
But he's just a boy. You can't ruin his life over a little fire.
Kenji placed a hand on his wife's shoulder, his own protests crumbling into silence. The campsite fell into a heavy quiet, the law pressing down harder than any parental defense ever could.
Sir, as the permit holder and senior consultant, do you wish to confirm these details for the official report?
Every pair of eyes locked onto Sora as he reached into his jacket and pulled out a laminated badge.
Confirmed. The ignition was deliberate and unauthorized. I witnessed it personally.
Senior consultant? That's not possible. He's just a boring office worker. You are lying.
Sora, you never told me you worked with the park. How long has this been going on?
I am a senior consultant for wildfire prevention. I helped design the very detection system that caught your brother.
You! All this time, we thought you were just some low-level clerk. We never knew.
But why hide it? If we'd known, we would have taken your warning seriously.
You shouldn't need to know my job to respect basic safety. The fire advisory should have been enough.
In the silence that followed, the weight of the weekend crashed down on them all. No longer just a family squabble, but a crime with federal teeth.
You planned this, didn't you? You set me up all weekend, waiting for me to slip so you could destroy me.
He strained against the handcuffs, his voice cracking as he looked desperately toward his parents. But Kenji and Akiko just stared at Sora, their son's betrayer or their family's savior. They no longer knew.
Enough, Tatsuya. No one made you do this. You lit the fire. Stop blaming Sora for your own actions.
Saki, you can't be on his side. He's ruined everything. Mom, Dad, do something.
This isn't a negotiation. Arson during a red flag advisory carries a mandatory minimum, 6 months community service, and a fine of 50,000 yen.
The words hung in the cold air. Tatsuya's legs buckled, his protests dying into a choked sob.
He felt no satisfaction, only the grim certainty that this was the cost of one reckless instant.
Ranger Tanaka took Tatsuya's arm and began leading him toward the jeep, the family frozen, like spectators at a stranger's sentencing. For the first time all weekend, no one had a joke, no one had an excuse. The law had the final word. The family's SUV followed the ranger's jeep along a dark forest road. No one spoke a word. At the ranger station, fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as Tatsuya was led to a processing desk. The formal charge: arson during a fire advisory. Fine, 50,000 yen. Court date, 14 days from now. Tatsuya stared at the floor, his designer jacket rumpled, his earlier laughter now a foreign memory.
Due to the severity, he'll be held until the court appearance, unless the senior consultant vouches for his release.
Every gaze in the room shifted to Sora. The power to grant mercy rested solely in his hands.
He could free Tatsuya with one word, but the words that rose to his lips were different.
Sir?
The charges stand.
The ranger's expression didn't change. He motioned for Tatsuya to be taken to a holding cell, the door clanging shut with a cold finality. The family gathered outside the ranger station under a sky still streaked with fading smoke.
Sora, is there truly nothing you can do? He's still my son.
Please, Sora, use your influence. He made a stupid mistake, but he's not a criminal.
The law is clear, and even if it weren't, Tatsuya needs to understand that fire is not a toy. What he did tonight could have killed us. Next time, it might kill strangers. That's not a lesson I can shield him from.
He's right, Mom. Tatsuya has been coddled too long. This might be the only way he ever grows up.
Akiko's tears fell silently. She no longer had words, only the bitter weight of regret.
I understand. I am sorry for how we treated you, Sora.
This was the moment she saw her husband not as the quiet outsider, but as the steady anchor he'd always been.
No one moved to leave. They simply stood together. A family reshaped by ash and consequence. Sora and Saki stepped back into the ranger station's quiet hallway, away from Kenji and Akiko.
He thought of the charred hillsides, the blackened trees he had surveyed after a single careless spark.
The poster on the wall read, "Only you can prevent wildfires." He had never felt the weight of those words more.
You are doubting yourself, aren't you?
Number, I am not, but I wonder if I could have done it differently, so it didn't have to hurt you.
You protected us. You protected this forest. I've never been more proud to stand beside you.
Then it was the right call.
They stood in the humming quiet, the bond between them stronger than any family expectation.
If this prevents even one future wildfire, then his silence and his choice would be worth every weight.
Outside, the first light of dawn crept over the treetops. A new day, a heavy peace. The morning sun revealed the full damage, a blackened skeleton of tent poles and shredded fabric. Tatsuya's absence was a wound in the air.
She folded the scorched remains of their tent, each thread a reminder of what her brother had done.
Kenji and Akiko packed their things with slow, mechanical movements. No one hummed, no one spoke. Their earlier confidence had dissolved with the ash.
It was not a victory. It was simply the necessary end of a disaster that had been brewing long before the first spark.
The car trunk closed with a hollow thud. One seat in the back would stay empty on the drive home. Kenji paused before climbing in, his gaze fixed on the fire ring from the night before. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing.
Dad, we should go. The ranger said, we need to leave before the investigation team arrives.
Sora stood by the driver's door, waiting. The forest seemed quieter than it had all weekend, as though it too was grieving. One by one, they climbed into the SUV. The engine turned over, and they left the campsite, but the silence came with them. The road unwound beneath them, carrying a family forever changed. Miles vanished under the tires. The silence inside the car was not empty. It was crowded with everything no one could say.
She wanted to reach back and comfort her mother, but the distance between the seats felt like a canyon.
Kenji stared out the window. His reflection ghosted over acres of passing forest. He had not spoken since they left the station.
A single tear traced Akiko's cheek. She didn't wipe it away.
Saki reached over and rested her hand on Sora's. He didn't look away from the road, but his fingers curled around hers.
He felt her warmth, a steady anchor in the storm of this morning. He would not let go.
The tension in the car slowly shifted, no longer just shock, but the first fragile threads of respect woven through the grief.
His mind replayed every dismissal, every snide joke he'd ever laughed at. They tasted bitter now.
City signs appeared on the horizon. Home was near, but the journey between who they'd been and who they were becoming was far from over. The engine hummed on, a quiet witness to the words still waiting to be born. The SUV turned onto their street, passing the same houses they had left only 2 days ago, a lifetime ago. Kenji's jaw worked silently for a long moment, as if he were trying to lift words that had grown too heavy over the years.
Sora, I have been sitting here trying to find the right words, and I don't know if there are any. Thank you for not letting my son die in a real fire one day.
His voice cracked on the last word, the weight of a father's fear, raw in the sound, but he didn't look away. In the rearview mirror, Sora met Kenji's eyes and gave a single, slow nod. No words were needed. Saki felt a tear slide down her cheek. She didn't try to stop it. Akiko reached over and clasped Kenji's hand, her own tears silent witnesses to the change.
No words could answer that, only actions over time.
The car finally pulled into the driveway. The engine quieted, but inside them, the journey had only just begun. 3 months into his sentence, Tatsuya stood in a blackened valley, an orange vest replacing his designer jacket, a sapling in his calloused hands.
At first, he cursed every hole he dug. The blisters, the heat, the humiliation, they were all Sora's fault.
But the rangers told stories of families who lost everything, of animals that burned alive. Tatsuya couldn't escape the words.
One night, an old man showed him a photo of his charred home. Tatsuya couldn't meet his eyes.
The day his shovel struck a rock hidden in ash, something inside him cracked too. Not anger, something quieter.
He began asking questions, real ones. How long until the forest returns? Which plants resist fire? The rangers answered patiently.
By the 5th month, Tatsuya was the first to arrive and the last to leave. His body ached, but his mind felt clearer than it had in years.
One name echoed in his thoughts, Sora. The man he'd mocked had understood this reality. Tatsuya finally understood it too.
He could now identify the shrubs that fueled the fastest flames. The rangers let him lead fire safety talks for visiting school groups. By the end of his 6 months, the land was still scarred, but the first green shoots had broken through, just like him. A year to the day after the fire, a handwritten envelope landed on Sora's desk. No return address, just his name in careful script. Sora opened it without hurry, his eyes scanning the first line before he consciously decided to read. Dear Sora, I have started this letter 100 times and torn it up each time. But the truth is simple. I was wrong, and I am sorry. For 6 months, I dug into burned earth and listened to people who lost everything to sparks like mine. I finally see that what I called a joke could have been a funeral. I am not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it yet, but I want you to know that your silence that night was not cruelty. It was the only truth I ever needed to hear. The letter continued for another page, detailing the species of trees he'd planted, the children he'd taught fire safety. Not bragging, simply reporting on a life changed.
He had expected anger or deflection. Not this. Tatsuya's words held the same weight as a seedling breaking through ash.
Sora set the letter down. The afternoon light caught the ink, making the words glow.
A part of him wanted to write back immediately. But that was the old reflex, the one that always smoothed things over. This required something different.
He opened a drawer, placed the letter inside a folder labeled Tatsuya, and closed it without a word.
One letter did not erase a year of silence, but a single sentence might open a door if Tatsuya was truly ready to walk through it.
He pulled a blank card from his desk and set it before him. The pen hovered for a moment, then touched the paper. Try again next year. He signed it with just his name, no title, no authority. The message was the weight he chose to carry. He slid the card into an envelope and addressed it to the Community Service Program's field office.
This was not forgiveness. It was a test, one only time could grade.
He dropped the envelope into the mailbox on his way to work, the metal flap clanging shut with a quiet finality. From the window, Saki watched. She didn't need to read the note. His posture told her everything.
He was still the steady anchor for her family, for her, for the forest.
A faint, rare smile crossed Sora's face as he drove away. For now, that was enough. The envelope arrived at the field office 3 days later. Tatsuya held it with dirt-stained fingers, his heart hammering.
He recognized the handwriting instantly, sharp, precise, just like the man himself.
He stepped outside, away from the crew, and tore it open. The card inside held only 4 words. The note read, "Try again next year." No signature necessary. The meaning was as clear as a firebreak.
Not forgiveness, not rejection. A door left ajar, waiting to see if he would push it open.
A small, tearful smile broke through the sweat on his face. He hadn't smiled like that in years. He folded the card carefully and tucked it into his shirt pocket. Next to the shovel handle's worn groove, he picked up his sapling crate and walked back to the planting line. The work was the same, but his posture had changed. Shoulders back, eyes steady.
Next year, he would write again. Not for pardon, but to show Sora the forest he had helped grow.
One sapling at a time, one season at a time, he would earn the right to try again. On a ridge overlooking a valley of new growth, Sora and Saki stood together, the sunset spilling gold across the mountainside.
It doesn't look like the same land. It's hard to believe fire ever touched it.
Sora's hand rested on a newly installed camera, a silent sentinel, wired to the very network that had caught Tatsuya's spark.
Some lessons can't be taught with lectures. They have to be learned through ash, through blisters, through consequence.
Saki leaned her head against his shoulder, the wind carrying the scent of pine and living earth. Below, the forest breathed. Not healed yet, but alive, a promise written in green shoots and the quiet hum of insects. The fire had taken something from them all, but it had also given something back, an understanding that no gentle word could ever deliver. As darkness settled, they remained on the ridge, not waiting, simply present, in a world still worth protecting. Some sparks destroy, Others, like the one that had lit a new path in Tatsuya's hands, eventually clear the way for new growth. And in that quiet, under the watchful eye of the camera he had built, Sora allowed himself a single, complete breath.